Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. As per usual, we got quite a couple stories to go through, so we're just gonna dive right into it. First things first, Wolong Fallen Dynasty just released a couple days ago when the reviews went up. Things are looking pretty good so far. It's got an 81 according to the critic reviews, and it has a 7.4 user score, so it could definitely be better, but it's far from bad. From what I've been hearing, the game itself is fine, like it's a fun game. The only real problem is with PC performance. Apparently, the PC port isn't too hot, and that's honestly a shame, you know. Back in the day, that was a pretty common trend for most of the games to be made for console and then ported to PC, except during the porting process, things would get messed up and the PC ports were always just not as good. Thankfully, in recent years, we've been getting away from that, but there's still a few stinker releases like this where it just isn't up to snuff on the PC, and that's honestly a shame. Fingers crossed to get an update out soon to make the game run the way that it should. Next up, a new Dragon Ball game was announced, and I am honestly so excited for this. Back in the day, I used to love the Dragon Ball Budokai games, the Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi games. Well, this last week, they announced Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4, I'm assuming. They didn't really reveal the name, so I don't know if this is gonna be Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4. It could obviously go by another name, like Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi with some sort of like subtitle for it, but regardless, it's the fourth Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi game, and I am so excited for this. Originally, when I watched the trailer, I wasn't sure if it was gonna be a remake, because, I mean, you guys are watching the trailer right now, but the way that it starts, it shows a CRT TV, it's going for the nostalgic vibes, obviously, but then all of a sudden, it like transitions into the new game and the new graphics and everything like that. I'm honestly super excited for this. It's been great seeing so many great anime games come out lately. Like, we had One Piece Odyssey just a couple months ago, and now we have this coming up. For those of you that don't know, in real life, I'm a bit of a weeb, but you really can't blame me. I'm part Asian, so it's just in my blood. No release dates or release windows or anything like that, so I'll definitely keep you guys updated as soon as we know more. While we're talking about new game releases, Cities Skylines 2 was announced, had a trailer drop and everything like that for it. The game honestly looks great. It just looks like more of Cities Skylines, and that's not a knock against it or anything like that. I mean, I loved the original Cities Skylines. I'm a sucker for city building games. I used to love SimCity back in the day. I didn't play a whole lot of Cities Skylines, admittedly. Like, I played it, I put a good maybe 10-15 hours into the game, so nothing too crazy by normal city building standards. But I won't lie, I had a nice little city going. I had a lot of fun with the first game, so I cannot wait for when this run releases. Again, we didn't get any release dates or release windows, so once more, I'll keep you guys updated as soon as we know more. Now, so far in the show, we've been talking about new games, new game releases and such, but unfortunately, there's another delay, and it's a delay on a game that I've been waiting for so long. This being Hogwarts Legacy for last gen specifically. So as you probably know, you know, the game's already out on PS5, Series X, Series S, whatever, but the PS4 and Xbox One version was actually slated to come out like a month or two after the next gen version originally, but now it has been officially delayed from early April into early May. This coming from the official Hogwarts Legacy page on Twitter. We're overwhelmed with gratitude for the response to Hogwarts Legacy from fans around the globe. The team is working hard to deliver the best possible experience on all platforms, and we need more time to do this. Hogwarts Legacy will launch for PS4 and Xbox One May 5th, 2023. One interesting thing to note is that this game is still coming to Switch. However, we do not have a release date for the Switch version yet. They've been saying from the start that the Switch version will be coming out last out of all the releases. So first we had the PS5 and Series X, and then the PS4 and Xbox One version will come out, and finally the Switch version will come out. I just find it interesting though that even with this latest delay, that'll still be the case. So even though the PS4 and the Xbox One versions are getting pushed off even farther from their original intended release date, I guess that also affects the Switch, and the Switch will now be coming out even later than that version was supposed to be originally. Regardless, I'm okay with this. I'll always wait a bit longer for a complete product rather than receive a product early that's broken, buggy, and incomplete. On to our next story. Yuji Naka admits to insider trading in court. You know, this is really twisted for me to say, but this is a fun story for me to talk about. You want to know why? Because this was one of my headlining stories on the very first episode of Weekly GCap. Granted, going back and watching that episode now, you know, it's a little rough. My commentary wasn't exactly on point. I was still trying to get the hang of this whole talking gaming news guy thing, but I have a lot of love and respect for this story because it was one of the first big ones that I covered. Anyways, let's go ahead and read the headline. Former Sonic boss Yuji Naka admits insider trading. Case involving shares worth 865,000 euros in court. That is insane. That is almost $1 million. Quote, "There was no doubt that I knew the facts about the game before it was made public and bought the stock," Naka said. Naka also faces a further charge of insider trading relating to stocks bought in developer Aiming, albeit for a smaller amount, around 16.8 thousand euros. Aiming was, at the time of Naka's purchase, reportedly making a Dragon Quest mobile game that was not yet known about in public. Honestly, this doesn't surprise me. I'm sure his lawyers were just telling him, like, look, just plead guilty, it'll take some time off your sentence, or maybe it'll make the punishment less severe. I mean, granted, I'm sure there's going to be a reasonably hefty any punishment for this because, again, it was near $1 million in stocks. At the time of me recording this, there is no official statement on what his sentence will be. But again, at the very least, he's acknowledging it. He's pleading guilty to it. So hopefully it won't be as bad as it would have been originally. And for our next story, the Square Enix president will be stepping down. This coming from RPG site on Twitter. Quote, pending approval at the next annual shareholders meeting, Yosaki Matsuda, I think is how you say it, will no longer be president of Square Enix. His role will be succeeded by Takashi Kiryu. Now, I'm not sure if there's an exact reason as to why he's stepping down as president. What I do know is he has been there for 10 years, so there's a chance he's just ready to move on, because even though 10 years isn't that long in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to big businesses like this, like, you know, you hear about presidents for companies like Apple, Microsoft, whatever, they stay at their president position for years, like decades on end at a time. But that doesn't mean that it's easy, especially for Square Enix lately. There's a chance that he's just ready to move on from it, go do something else, maybe take a lower position in the company, because I don't know if he's actually leaving Square Enix or if he's just kind of demoting himself and putting himself in a lower position in the company. We don't know yet. However, some people are worried about the new president, Takashi Kiryu, considering he's only been with the company since 2020, so he's still kind of a newbie around there. Furthermore, the previous company this guy worked for was very, and I do mean very, involved with NFTs and NFT companies, and if you guys have paid attention to any gaming news pertaining to NFTs, like when it comes to Ubisoft, they got a whole lot of backlash for it. So if we take that into consideration and then look at Square Enix's latest projects, like, oh, I don't know, Avengers, Babylon's Fall, Forspoken, and then you combine that with NFTs, yeah, Square Enix, things could be getting pretty messy there, if I'm being honest. I'm not saying things will go that way, but there's a potential chance. Now, let's look at this from the optimistic point of view. We, again, bringing up some of Square Enix's latest failures, like, again, Avengers, Babylon's Fall, Forspoken, and beyond that, just all the other projects they've been working on that have to do with live services. What if Takashi becoming president could actually be a good thing? Because the way I see it, it's not very often that somebody that's only been in a company for 3 years would be handed the president position, so I'm kind of inclined to believe that there's something about this guy that the higher-ups see as promising, or at least promising enough to hand him in this position. We all know how it is on the internet. People love to focus on the negatives, and a lot of people have been strictly focusing on the negatives with this new Takashi guy taking over as president at Square Enix, but I always try to look at things through an optimistic lens, so again, this could end up being a good thing. And let's also not forget the fact that Final Fantasy 16 will be releasing soon, so with this being one of the first games that he'll be president for, it'll definitely make him look pretty good as a leader when all these sales start coming in and their game is topping the charts. That would certainly help investors turn their heads and be like, hey, look at Square Enix, they're on this upward trajectory ever since this guy took over. And even if it wasn't necessarily due to this new president, since obviously Final Fantasy 16 at this point is probably near close to, if not already done development for the most part. So even if he didn't actually have anything to do with the project to an extensive degree, just the fact that he's going to be president during the time that the game releases, it'll make them look good and make this new leadership look good in the eyes of investors. Like I said, we always like to look at things from an optimistic point of view here on the show, so I'm gonna stay optimistic, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed, and I'm gonna hope for the best. I want nothing but the best for Square Enix. I love this company, I love their games, so let's just hope that 2023 and beyond can be the start of something great for Square Enix. Now, this next story is, it's somewhat interesting. So you guys remember the whole loot box debacle that was going on a couple years ago, think with the Call of Duty games, or like Star Wars Battlefront 2, Overwatch, etc. Well, Australia has ruled that FIFA loot boxes are in fact gambling. This coming from gamesindustry.biz, the headline saying, Austrian court rules that FIFA loot boxes violate gambling laws, but Sony's still able to appeal after being ordered to refund PlayStation users who sued over Ultimate Team. Now, I've got a good bit to read here, so just bear with me, okay? An Austrian court has ruled that loot boxes in FIFA violate the nation's gambling laws and have demanded that affected players be refunded. German publication Games Wirtschaft reported that the District Court of Hermagor, I think is how you say it, has classified FIFA Ultimate Team's card packs as illegal gambling. This is because players' ability to sell cards on a secondary market means it's possible to make a profit, giving the randomized item some level of financial value. The verdict was a result of a 2022 lawsuit between a group of PlayStation-owning FIFA players and Sony Interactive Entertainment Network Europe Limited. The reason the lawsuits were filed against Sony rather than FIFA developer and publisher Electronic Arts is because the loot boxes were purchased through the PlayStation Store, so the users' purchasing contracts are with Sony. So while I understand that the users' purchasing contracts are technically with Sony, and Sony could technically be to blame for allowing these packs to be purchased on their storefront in the first place, wouldn't it also be a good idea to get to the root of the problem and throw a lawsuit at the developer and EA as well for including it in their game in the first place? Oh, and for anyone that doesn't realize why this is so important, it's because as soon as there is any kind of gambling present within a game that involves real-life currency, that game's rating automatically needs to be changed to an A+, aka an 18+ only rating, which, yeah, that's not a good look for a FIFA title to carry that kind of rating. I'll definitely keep you guys updated and let you know if we hear any updates on this or any similar stories going forward. Now, we're at about the halfway point in the show, so everybody just stand up, take a stretch, maybe take a drink of water, grab some crackers, grab a snack, do some. We're gonna cover a couple quick, smaller stories and announcements and such just to kind of break up the pace and help you guys digest everything you just listened to before diving back into the heavy stuff. So first off, a new Xbox controller was announced. I'll put a picture up on screen for you guys. It is called the Velocity Green. As you can see, it looks pretty nice. I like Microsoft's approach this generation. They've been putting out a ton of controllers, and not only have they been putting out a bunch of special edition controllers, but it seems like they've been trying to do a color for every single color of the rainbow. At least that's what it seems like to me. Honestly, I'm digging it. By the end of the generation, I'm gonna try to buy at least one of every single one of these controllers and make like a rainbow out of it on my gaming stand. Is it completely useless? Yes. Is it a dumb idea? Yes. Will it look cool at least? Yeah. I also like the other controllers they've been putting out lately. Like, the one that we covered a few weeks ago in this show is called Stellar Shift or something like that. It was the controller that was like purplish and blue. It kind of had like different hues to it, and it would change colors according to where the light in your room was reflecting onto it. I actually ended up buying that for my mom as a birthday present because she plays Xbox as well, and she is loving that controller. I actually sat there and watched her unbox it because I was curious as to what the controller looked like, and yeah, it looks freaking sweet. Next up, I wanted to cover the games that are coming to Game Pass for the month of March. So first off, we have Dead Space 2, but it's the cloud version. Same thing with Dead Space 3, that'll be coming to the service, but it's the cloud version. Again, keep in mind, Dead Space 1, 2, and 3 are already available through Game Pass because Game Pass Ultimate includes EA Play as a part of the service. So even though the Dead Space games aren't technically a part of Game Pass itself, it's a part of Game Pass Ultimate because Game Pass Ultimate already comes bundled with EA Play. Does that make sense? Anyways, after that, we have Civilization 6, Guilty Gear Strive, Valheim, which that one surprises me. I didn't even know if Valheim was going to be coming to consoles, but apparently so. And then finally, Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom. I love how many RPGs and JRPGs Xbox has been getting, not only on their platform, but also putting into Game Pass. I love that recognition. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm a bit of a weeb, and that also goes for JRPGs. I'm a sucker for those good old 50 to 200 hour JRPGs with turn-based combat and the anime art style. And the fact that Xbox has been putting so many into Game Pass lately, notably with Persona 3, 4, and 5 going into the service just a couple months ago, is just, I love that. There's so many underrated RPGs and JRPGs out there that just go unnoticed because they aren't like your typical AAA Ubisoft or Call of Duty type game. So here's to hoping that these kinds of games can actually start to get a bit more traction and become a bit more mainstream, since Microsoft and Sony have been including these kinds of games in their service lately, like with Sony putting Legend of Dragoon into their PlayStation Plus service just a couple of weeks ago. Next up, we got some news around Starfield. So the release date was announced, or at least what we think to be the release date. I mean, this thing is changing every other week, but apparently this time they're saying it's going to be September 6th, 2023. Yeah, it was supposed to be out like 2 years ago at this point, so I don't really believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. But they will also have like another Xbox Developer Direct type thing happening June 11th of 2023. So that's about 3 months from now. I was pretty spot on with my prediction. If you go back and watch one of the previous episodes of WGC, I was saying that Starfield was probably going to release around like August to September, and what do you know? I was spot on. People think I'm a fool, but I know what I'm talking about. I've been around in this industry long enough. I know how this stuff works. All in all, I'm reasonably excited for the game. I'm not necessarily hyped by any means. It's one of those games where like, yeah, I really want to play it. I'm excited to see it come out, but I'm not necessarily hyped for it. Like, when it comes out, I don't even know if I'd be playing it day one necessarily. I mean, it'll be in Game Pass, so like, sure, I'll download it, I'll try it, but it's not one that I'd be like running to the store to dump 60 bucks on, if you know what I mean. I feel bad for anybody that is seriously hyped for this game though, man. Y'all have been waiting for so long. I hope it doesn't get delayed again for y'all's sake. Next up, 343 is promising consistency going forward with Halo Infinite. So a couple days ago, Season 3 started, and there's some new maps, a new battle pass, all the usual live service stuff. But what I want to focus on here is this section in their blog post with the heading Looking Forward. This reads, quote, "In our preview of Season 3, I said that this is the beginning of what seasonality is for Halo Infinite, but seasonality is restrictive. To me, seasonality is really about consistency. We need to be consistent in everything. I feel very confident with where we've gone with Season 3, and I have very strong confidence that we're going to be able to keep improving that consistency and avoid completely the long seasons of the past. We're going to be more consistent. We're going to continue to evolve the game in close partnership with our players. We're focused on shipping Season 3, and then, as Chief said, we're ready to get back to work. First off, round of applause. I have loved this game since day one, ever since the game release. I've been saying it. It's a great game at its core. The way the game feels to play, the engine, the movement, the gunplay, the maps, like, it's an amazing game at its core. The only thing that has been holding this game back has been a lack of support and content. Admittedly, I haven't even played the game in a couple of months because even when I got on, back when they had an event going on during Season 2, they had like 2 battle passes going at once, all these crazy events. It just, there wasn't any actual new substantial content in the game outside of, you know, new stuff in the shops and camos or whatever. But I must admit, I watched the trailer for this latest season and it looks promising. There's a lot of good stuff here. Not gonna get my hopes up too high, but I'm definitely gonna be checking out Season 3 at the very least and seeing if it's actually any good. And then from there, I'll definitely be keeping tabs on the game, you know. I'm not gonna lie, I got burnt pretty bad in the beginning, you know, with the lack of content, lack of support, I didn't really see a point in continuing to play. But I'll just say this much right now, if they can keep it up with the rate things are going now, this may end up being one of the games that actually gets me to interact with a live service on a consistent basis. The only live service game that I really interact with consistently is Call of Duty. Like every single year, every single season, I hit max rank, I max out the battle pass. Like I always make sure to do that in every single season of Call of Duty ever since I started doing seasons, just because, well, you know, ever since I was younger, I've always been a huge fan of COD, and that's really been the only live service game that has been able to draw me in. Halo Infinite was able to do it at first, like back at launch when it was still considered a beta, so then they were able to get away with the lack of content, but once the game officially launched and there was still a lack of support and content, I kind of fell off for a bit. But again, this seems really promising, so I'm excited to see what the game and these devs have in store for us. Here is the usual weekly warning. So I say this in every single episode. I know there are some people that are genuinely sick about hearing about the Microsoft Activision acquisition drama, so if you're one of those people, you're free to click off. That's all that I have left for you guys is just Microsoft drama. But if you're here for it and if you actually want to hear about it, well then let's go, because we got, it's not a lot to talk about. Like, this shouldn't take too long to get through, but it's still entertaining for what it is. That's what I'll say. You know what? This isn't the usual, like, investors and numbers drama with a bunch of redacted documents. No, this is just like Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer throwing shots. I feel like I'm sitting back in middle school recording with my iPod Touch yelling fight from the background. I'm usually against corporate beefs, but you know, this one's pretty funny. But first, before we get into the funny stuff, Microsoft believes that they can bring Call of Duty to Switch. Yes, I'm talking like Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone. This coming from Charlie Intel over on Twitter. It says, new, Microsoft says they believe Activision can make Warzone and latest Call of Duty games run on the Nintendo Switch without issue. Stating the game runs on low-end PCs already, says it can be done in a timely manner. There's a whole lot of corporate document mumbo-jumbo here, so let me just read off the important bits. COD includes both the free-to-play title Warzone and buy-to-play releases, that being something like, I don't know, Modern Warfare 2, Vanguard, Cold War, etc. The game engine that powers Warzone is mature and has been optimized to run on a wide range of hardware devices, ranging from the Xbox One console released in 2015 up to the Xbox Series X. Warzone supports PC hardware with GPU cards that were released as far back as 2015, i.e. prior to the release of the Nintendo Switch in 2017, which I don't know if that's really a valid point, because you gotta remember, even though the Switch came out in 2017, it was already technically underpowered by the time that it came out. And furthermore, this document is actually inaccurate. It said Xbox One consoles that released in 2015, whereas the Xbox One actually released in 2013. They may be talking about the Slim revision, which did in fact come out in 2015. However, that had the exact same internals as the original one from 2013. So I feel like if they wanted to get their point across here, it would have been better to mention the base Xbox One from 2013, because that one is still supported by Call of Duty, Warzone, Modern Warfare 2, etc. Anyway, let me keep reading this here. So the Activision development team have a long history of optimizing game performance for available hardware capabilities. The parties are confident that in addition to Warzone, COD buy-to-play titles, e.g. COD Modern Warfare 2, can be optimized to run on the Nintendo Switch in a timely manner using standard techniques which have been used to bring games such as Apex Legends, Doom Eternal, Fortnite, and Crysis 3 to the Switch. Hold up, they got Crysis 3 running on the Switch? I gotta look that up. I did not know that happened. Activision estimates that this could be done within a period of around redacted months. Why did they have to redact that? That's what I want to know. How soon could we see Modern Warfare 2 on the Switch? That would be insane. Oh my gosh, I'm over on Google right now. They didn't put Crysis 3 on the Switch. They put Crysis 3 Remastered on the Switch. That is insane. Look, Crysis 3 barely ran on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. It ran at a solid, 20 FPS, maybe sometimes 15 on the PS3, and roughly like 18 to 24 FPS on the 360. And, well, the Nintendo Switch kind of has problems running some of the games from that generation. I think, like, the LA Noire remaster that went over to the Switch, that game didn't necessarily run the best on that system, if I'm being honest. And somehow they made Crysis 3 Remastered run on that. Is this, like, a cloud version, or is this actually native? Wow, according to Digital Foundry, it is, in fact, native, and it runs at 30 FPS. Wow. Point proven, I guess. If they made Crysis run on a Nintendo Switch with the graphics that Crysis 3 has, and all the different effects, then fair play. Maybe they can get Modern Warfare 2 on there. Sorry for that random tangent and like off-topic discussion, but that just blew my mind. I didn't know that. Anyway, let's keep moving here. We got some drama pertaining to Microsoft and Sony as per usual. So first off, this coming from Tom Warren over on Twitter. It says, Sony suggests to the CMA that Microsoft could release a buggy version of Call of Duty on PlayStation, which can make gamers lose confidence in PlayStation as a go-to venue to play Call of Duty. There is no way that this is legit. Let me go ahead and read the statement that they made to the CMA. For example, Microsoft might release a PlayStation version of Call of Duty where bugs and errors emerge only on the game's final level or after later updates. Even if such degradations could be swiftly detected, any remedy would likely come too late, by which time the gaming community would have lost confidence in PlayStation as a go-to venue to play Call of Duty. Indeed, as Modern Warfare 2 attests, Call of Duty is most often purchased in just the first few weeks of release. If it becomes known that the game's performance on PlayStation was worse than on Xbox, Call of Duty gamers could decide to switch to Xbox for fear of playing their favorite game at a second-class or less competitive venue. Now, that is inaccurate because I actually bought Modern Warfare 2 on my Xbox One X, even though I knew for a fact it would be running better on PlayStation. I mean, granted, I also did that just because I game share with somebody, but even still, I'm pretty good with my money, and most years I actually end up getting Call of Duty on both platforms. I get it on Xbox, so then I can get it for me and the person that I game share with, and I also get it on PlayStation, just so then I have access to the quote-unquote better version of the game, and so then I can also get access to some of the, like, exclusive packs that Sony gets. You know, they put out those free PS Plus bundles, you get special skins and weapon camos and stuff like that, but honestly, this year I didn't even do that, and that is with knowing that Sony is the superior platform between PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, that is, at least. And you gotta think, most gamers don't just have both systems, especially when it comes to like the Series X and the PS5, so for them, whether or not it runs better on one system or not doesn't necessarily matter. It's just gonna be a matter of, oh, okay, I own this system, the latest Call of Duty is out, I'm gonna buy that, I'll buy it for wherever my friends play, which, well, actually, now that I think of it, I guess where your friends are playing isn't exactly relevant anymore since crossplay is a thing, but still, I don't know, the more arguments that Sony makes, the more that their standpoint just falls apart. And before we get to the last bit of the news here, it's just worth noting that Xbox took up a whole 2-page section of newspapers in the UK. Basically, the headline just says, Call of Duty for 150 million more players, you know, just trying to make themselves look good in the eye of the people, or, you know, just for people that aren't as plugged in as somebody like, say, me and you watching this video are. I'd consider somebody to be plugged in with gaming news when they keep up with the news on a regular basis or actively seek this stuff out as soon as it's happening. So for the average, you know, Joe Schmo out on the street that normally doesn't keep up or isn't plugged in with the gaming news, if they see a headline like this in the newspaper, they're gonna be like, oh, look at Microsoft, good for them, they're doing good stuff, and that's gonna make them look good in the eyes of the people. So then when they see their regulator being like, no, we don't want this deal to go through, it's gonna make the people go like, what are you doing? These are good people, they're trying to make the game be accessible to more people than ever before. Basically, just trying to sway public opinion, get more people on their side, and just give them every advantage possible to help this deal go through. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty smart tactic. This last one, y'all aren't even gonna believe. So this again coming from Tom Warren over on Twitter. PlayStation chief Jim Ryan said, I don't want a new Call of Duty deal. I just want to block your merger. According to Activision executive Lulu Chang Maservi, I think is how you say it, the comment was made on February 21st, the day behind closed doors meetings were held with the EU. So if you guys remember me talking about that just a couple episodes here on WGC, I was saying how Microsoft was going to be having this closed hearing and there was potential for some Sony executives to be there. I'm pretty sure this is the same hearing behind closed doors that they're talking about. I mean, honestly, what do we even need to say about the story? I mean, this is the last one for the day, but it speaks for itself. I mean, Jim Ryan finally admitted it. We've all been saying this, we all knew this, but I don't want a new Call of Duty deal. I just want to block your merger. Honestly, I don't know if do we take this serious? Do we laugh? I mean, we all knew this, but it's just like, it's hard to take it seriously because this whole time he's been trying to be discreet, trying to be subtle, just like, no, Microsoft could do this, this, and the other, but then they completely just dropped the walls and said, no, buddy, I just want to block your merger. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about no deals. I don't care about parity. I just don't want you to have this. I don't know. I got my laugh in for the day. I think we're just gonna leave things there, honestly. That's the perfect place to leave it. But anyways, that's all I got for you this week. Now I want to hear from you guys. Are you excited for the new Dragonball Budokai Tenkaichi game? Have you gotten to play Wo Long Fallen Dynasty? What are your thoughts on it? Do you think the new leadership at Square Enix is a good thing? And what are your thoughts on the Microsoft and Sony drama? Whatever you're thinking, I'd love to hear from you guys. But anyways, these episodes go up every single Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, so if you want to catch them as soon as they go up, well then, now you know when to be here. But anyways, that's that. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.